Today is March 6th. Welcome to Big Book Daily. My name is Rob. I am an alcoholic. It's a thrill, honor, and joy to be here with you today as we journey through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. Today we are going to be reading out of the Big Book a new personal story of the pioneers of AA. This is Women Suffer Too, pages 200 and 201. And out of the 12 and 12, we're going to continue our journey through Step 8, page 79 to page 80. So with all that, my friends, hope you're doing well this morning. Let's get right to the good stuff. All right, so guys, if you recall from yesterday, we finished off Dave's testimony, and it was an absolutely beautiful testimony. I loved what he said at the very end. And if you don't mind, I'll read it one more time. It says, "I shall keep all that, and I won't have to drink, if I remember one simple thing, to keep my hand in the hand of God." So that was a beautiful way to end Dave's story. Now we are into story number 3 of the pioneers of AA. These are the folks in the early days of AA that remained sober for the rest of their lives. So this one's called Women Suffer Too. It says, despite great opportunities, alcohol nearly ended her life. An early member, she spread the word among women in our pioneering period. So with all that, my friends, let's read the first 2 pages. Page 200. What was I saying? From far away, as if in a delirium, I heard my own voice calling someone Dorothy, talking to dress shops, of jobs. The words came clearer. This sound of my own voice frightened me as it came closer. And suddenly, there I was, talking of I knew not what, to someone I'd never seen before at that very moment. Abruptly, I stopped speaking. Where was I? I'd waked up in strange rooms before, fully dressed on a bed or a couch. I'd waked up in my own room, in or on my own bed. Not knowing what hour or day it was, afraid to ask. But this was different. This time, I seemed to be already awake, sitting upright in a big, easy chair, in the middle of an animated conversation with a perfectly strange young woman who didn't appear to think it strange. She was chatting on, pleasantly and comfortably. Terrified, I looked around. I was in a large, dark, rather poorly furnished room, the living room of a basement flat. Cold chills started chasing up and down my spine. My teeth were chattering. My hands were shaking. So I tucked them under me and kept them from flying away. My fright was real enough, but it didn't account for these violent reactions. I knew what they were all right. A drink would fix them. It must have been a long time since I had my last drink, but I didn't dare ask this stranger for one. I must get out of here. In any case, I must get out of here before I let slip my abysmal ignorance of how I came to be here. And she realized that I was stark, staring mad. I was mad. I must be. The shakes grew worse, and I looked at my watch. 6 o'clock. It had been 1 o'clock when I last remembered looking. I'd been sitting comfortably in a restaurant with Rita, drinking my 6th martini and hoping the waiter would forget about the lunch order, at least long enough for me to have a couple more. I'd only had 2 with her, but I'd managed 4 in 15 minutes that I'd waited for her. And of course, I'd had the usual unaccounted swigs from the bottle as I painfully got up and did my slow spasmodic dressing. In fact, I had been in very good shape at 1 o'clock, feeling no pain. What could have happened? That had been in the center of New York on a noisy 42nd Street. This was obviously a quiet residential section. Why had Dorothy brought me here? Who was she? How had I met her? I had no answers, and I dared not ask. She gave me no sign of recognizing anything wrong. But what had I been doing for these lost 5 hours? My brain whirled. I might have done terrible things, and I wouldn't even know it. Somehow I got out of there and walked 5 blocks past brownstone houses. There wasn't a bar in sight, but I found the subway station. The name on it was unfamiliar, and I had to ask the way to Grand Central. It took 3/4 of an hour and 2 changes to get there. But back to my starting point, I had been in the remote reaches of Brooklyn. All right, guys, so we will stop here. Definitely want to come back to that in just a minute. I can really sympathize with this lady. All right, so hold that thought for just a minute. We'll jump into the 12 and 12. All right, my friends. So as said earlier, we are still, in the thick of step 8 here, which is to make a list of all persons we'd harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. And we've been talking about some of the obstacles, like the fact that we were victims and we don't want to look at the parts we might have played in some of these situations. The fact that, we should just let bygones be bygones. And then yesterday we read how, we think, well, we haven't really harmed anybody by our drinking. Today we're going to build on that thought on the bottom of page 79 going into page 80. This attitude, of course, is the end result of purposeful forgetting. It is an attitude which can only be changed by a deep and honest search of our motives and actions. Though in some cases we cannot make restitution at all, and in some cases action ought to be deferred, we should nevertheless make an accurate and really exhaustive survey of our past as it has affected other people. In many instances, we shall find that though the harm done to others had not been great, the emotional harm that we have done ourselves has. Very deep, sometimes quite forgotten, damaging emotional conflicts persist below the level of consciousness. At the time of these occurrences, they may actually have given our emotions violent twists, which have since discolored our personalities and altered our lives for the worse. While the purpose of making restitution to others is paramount, it is equally necessary that we extricate from an examination of our personal relations every bit of information about ourselves and our fundamental difficulties that we can. Since defective relationships with other human beings have nearly always been immediate cause of our woes, including our alcoholism, no field of investigation could yield more satisfying and valuable rewards than this one. Calm, thoughtful reflection upon personal relations can deepen our insight. We can go far beyond those things which were superficially wrong with us, to see those flaws which were basic flaws. Flaws which sometimes were responsible for the whole pattern of our lives. Thoroughness, we have found, will pay, and pay handsomely. All right, absolutely great stuff here. While this is fresh, I think what this is talking about is some of the root causes of why we did what we did. And if we can get down to the root cause of some of our defects, it's going to manifest itself in positive ways later on in our lives. For instance, one of the biggest reasons I drank is because I didn't really like who I was, and I loved the way that the drink made me feel. Well, by doing the steps and getting rigorously honest with myself and giving a lot of my defects to my higher power, I started doing things to build up my self-esteem. Good, godly things to build up my self-esteem. To where when I looked at my life, I realized, what? I'm not such a horrible person. I am loved by my higher power. And when I started feeling that way, I didn't feel like I needed to drink, or I didn't feel like I needed to pretend to be anybody else. But let me tell you something, my friends. This is the part this is the difficult part of it, though. It takes time. Some of these things are not going to be immediate, and I am guilty of wanting to slam my foot on the gas and then speed things up. But some things take time. One thing that does help is there's other things that seem to happen faster than others. Certain defects seem to go away quicker than others. They will eventually go away. The metaphor I always try to say is, we're trudging that road of happy destiny, right? You're walking with a purpose. You're making your way through the mud, and you're going to trip every now and then. And these might be even baby steps, maybe even a crawl at times. But if you still look back, you're going to see that you have made quite a distance and a lot of progress if you just keep trudging the road, not to happy destiny, of happy destiny. That's what the big book says. I feel like sobriety, you already get a little piece of heaven right here on earth. You don't have to make your way to this certain place of paradise. It's right here, right now. It's a state of mind. And the steps have certainly helped me with that. And go on to this lady's testimony real quick. Oh, my heart goes out to her. By a raise of hands, which I cannot see, how many of us have had those blackout panics? I have. I remember blacking out and ending up in a Walmart parking lot, about an hour away from my home. I checked my phone and I've got 7, 8 missed calls from my wife. And I'm in a panic going, how did I get here? I could have killed somebody. Oh, it was awful, awful. And I think to myself, there's the grace of my higher power. I could have died. I could have killed somebody else. Both could have happened. And I don't remember any of it. Yet, I live to tell about it. And here I am today. I get teary-eyed thinking about that. And there's other examples in my life where I know the hand of my higher power must have protected me for whatever reason. And it gives me immense gratitude when I think about that. And it's the last thing I'll say is I used to beat myself up over my past. But now, as the big book says, I've seen it. Our past and our failures, my higher power can turn that into my greatest strength. Because I can identify with somebody out there that might be going through that right now. And all glory to my higher power, like I'm sober today. And you can be too. And it's so much better. But it just blows my mind. And as I'm hearing this woman's testimony, I can relate to that panicky feeling of going, oh my gosh, how many drinks did I have? How did I get here? What am I doing? How do I get out of here? Where's my car? All that fear and panic, I can identify with it. I sure don't miss those days. Guys, I am so grateful you're here. Thank you so much for listening. As I try to say in every episode, I do not speak on behalf of AA, any other organization, or anything like that. I'm not a professional narrator. I am just a guy that is grateful to be sober today. I hope you all have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow.